The reality is you want to make the connection really, really quick. Try to find that connection because what's going to happen is when they get on a call, you're going to have the opportunity to steer the conversation. And you can steer it in a direction where you know the connection can be quickly made.
Make sure you want to work with the client and make sure that connection's there, but not only the connection. So I think diving into the amount of money they want to invest or some bottom line so you get a good indication of what the trip is going to be like and how you can service it is really important. Welcome to the Travel Agent Guide, the podcast pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to be a travel agent. We're talking real life, the challenges, the wins, the money, the mistakes, and the growth. Whether you've been in the travel industry for years or are new to it, we're in this together, and you're exactly where you need to be.
All right, today is my favorite topic that we ever talk about, and it is the sales process. So we're going to talk about what I have now coined and in my head have as my proven sales process. So my travel agency is 6 years old. It will do over $20 million in travel this year. I was not in travel before this, but I have been in sales. And something that I've just noticed in sales over the years is there needs to be a process that you stick to every time. And something I've really noticed in this industry is we love to email or text a client quotes and just hope they respond. And we do a lot of what I like to call spray and pray, where we just kind of like throw it out there and hope for the best. And I have to tell you, that's not a proven sales process. And you might have had success, but I feel very, very confident that you could have more success if you do it a different way. The other thing that I want to do as I frame this conversation with Haley today is I want to explain that we really target luxury travelers doing bucket list experiences. So we're looking for those people looking to spend 10, 15, 20, $25,000 or more in travel. And maybe the client doesn't travel every year. Maybe they travel every other year. That's fine with us. We definitely have some that spend 20 plus $1,000 multiple times a year. That's the ideal, right? And the idea is basically they're these really big trips. So if you're out there and you're like, look, I'm selling Carnival cruises and the way that I am doing it works for me. And it is just, I make $50 or $100 or $150 in commission per trip. Great. That's no problem. But it's more of, I want to spark ideas of what your process could look like. For us and for a luxury client, I firmly believe that this is the process that will make you successful in this industry. So, Haley, we always start our process with a consultation. Tell us a little bit of what a consultation really means to a travel advisor in 2026.
Of course. So, a consultation is going to be the first opportunity to get to meet a client. So, it's really important how you handle this, how you're going to approach it. I am very big, and like Bird said, we're hands-on with our clients. We like to get on Zoom calls. We like to meet our clients. We like to know who they are, get a little personable with them. That's my style of being a travel advisor. And it's also what I teach to advisors when I do coaching. So first step is get your client on a Zoom call. And by creating your process and knowing how to do that, it's going to be easier for you each time the opportunity comes for a consultation. So step one, Bird, consultation, get them on a Zoom call.
Absolutely. So I should have taken a step back and framed the full process first, and then we'll dive into how to make it unique.
Yeah.
Because I think some of you might be listening to this and going, of course, we do a consultation. Fine. But there are a few steps to it that I think make a big difference and what makes it successful for us. So our entire process consists of we do a Zoom consultation where we get to know the client. We will talk about a couple of unique things that you cannot forget in the consultation to make it successful. Then we have a research and design phase. From there, we have a process that we call our proposal or presentation that we do. And we do a live presentation. I'll walk you through what that looks like. And again, a few things that really make it successful. And then we basically coach our clients and set the expectation that we close on the presentation call. So we're asking Visa or MasterCard by the time we're done with that. And does it work 100% of the time? No, but it works quite often. So I'll explain to you how we get to that process without being pushy, without being salesy, with really being authentic in our work. And then the process keeps going. So I think part of the proven sales process is always making sure they understand what the next step looks like. So the next step after you close the deal is, hey, I work with somebody called my guest experience manager. They're going to reach out and they're going to help you with dinner reservations and spa appointments and any special requests you have. But you're not going to hear from us again for a while. If they plan a trip 9 months in advance, you want to make sure they understand they're not going to hear from you every single week like they have been in the past. Instead, hey, 60 days prior to departure, you're going to start hearing from us again as we put the finishing touches, the icing on the cake of your trip. And then we'll do a pre departure call where I go through and really make sure all your questions are answered and you feel really excited and prepared for your trip. So I like to lay out the full process in the consultation, just like I kind of did here. It should be quick, 30, 45 seconds, but the idea is helping them understand the journey that they're about to go on. Because if you help lay out the roadmap, they're more likely to stick to the map than if you just have it in your head and you're like, well, how come they're just texting me this? How come they don't know that the call is coming? Right. So I think it's a lot easier if we lay out the journey. So consultation, research and design phase, proposal, then pass it off to your, we call them guest experience managers, but you should have some kind of assistant if you're working full time in this job. And then you want them to understand they're going to have another opportunity to talk to you before they actually travel. So they can kind of either save up their questions or just know, hey, there's still this other moment where I get to contact my advisor. So, Haley, back to the consultation. You said a couple of things for the setup of it to make it successful. And one of those was Zoom. Tell me a little bit more about that as we dive into this consultation practice.
Yeah, of course. I think, an important step is once you get an intake form that comes in, or you get that email or random text message, it's okay, now I have this time to actually get this client on a call. And how do I do it? A lot of advisors will say, okay, here's my Calendly link and send it off, which I think is great. Definitely do it. But you need to have a follow-up process with this client, right? You need to get them into your CRM right away. You need to keep track of them, so you can get the next step moving, which is getting them on the consultation. So once you get them on the consultation, I always say, just get them on the Zoom, right, Bird? You like to say, assume the Zoom. There's no, this is what it is. Here's the Zoom link. I will see you at 3 o'clock on Tuesday, whatever that looks like. And most clients aren't going to kick back. I mean, once in a while, I'll get like a mom who is driving her kid to soccer who wants to just talk on the phone because she can't get in a Zoom call, or you're going to get clients in their 70s who are struggling. But even that, I just FaceTime them. I just call them right on my Apple and FaceTime them. I like to see faces. I like to know that these are real people, and I like to introduce myself and explain what my business is about and how I can better serve them as a travel agent. And that's your opportunity to make a connection, right? So I think getting on a consult, they know you're a real person. They know this is what you do for a living. It's a great approach to gain that trust right from the beginning.
Well, and let's back up. The thing that's beautiful about Zoom or any kind of video, whatever you use for video consultations, the thing about the video that's so important is we have to remember there's so much of our communication that happens non-verbally. And when your job on the consultation is to make that connection and that relationship, you're going to make it so much more easily if you're able to see the person, see their reaction to things, because you might make a suggestion, right? They're talking about going to Rome and they're bringing their kids, and you might make a suggestion about, did you know there's actually a gladiator school where kids can learn to fight like gladiators and better understand the gladiator lifestyle? Is that something that would interest you? You could hear, and don't get me wrong, tonality says a lot, but you could hear them say like, yeah, that'd be interesting to them. Or you could see their face where they're like, yeah, that's interesting to them, right? It's a very different way of communicating. And I think we forget how important nonverbals are. So a lot of advisors I talk to are very hesitant about that Zoom call, or they say my clients don't want to get on a Zoom. Don't ask them. Just say like, when's a good time for us to chat? And they say Tuesday at 2:30, and you say great, and then you send over the link. And if you don't have their email, I literally say, can I get your email address so I could send over a calendar invite? And in the calendar invite, I just have the link to Zoom or Teams or whatever you use. So that piece of it, I actually think is really, really important. And Haley kind of mentioned sometimes you do get the pushback. So I explained to them, no problem. I'm going to call you. Not an issue at all. But just so you know, for the presentation, we do need to be on video because I'm going to show you pictures of exactly where you're going to stay and the experiences you're going to get and da 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 da. And I want to make sure you get to see it, right? So as long as they are willing to get on a Zoom at some point in the process, we have the conversation with them. Haley, what if someone absolutely refuses to get on Zoom? You get the feedback, I'm on Zoom all day at work. I'm not willing to get on a video call. What do you do then?
It very rarely happens. I truly think I've gotten on consults with Zoom where they haven't even put screens on. And I was just going to ask you, like, what do you do in that situation? I will shut my Zoom screen off and I explain to them, I think after the consultation and they understand what you're doing and why, they're more apt to show up to the proposal having the screen on and they're excited about it. So at first, maybe they're just a little skeptical. They don't know what to expect. So maybe they want to stay with the screen off or not get on that Zoom call, which is fine. But I think how the progression of the relationship is after that consult's what's really important.
Yeah.
If there are clients who are like, you can usually feel it out. You're going to know if they're just trying to price shop. I mean, that goes back to the consultation of pitching a fee, right? And me explaining what I do. If now they don't want to hop on a Zoom call, they're not willing to pay a fee, then I know it's not going to work and you bless and release them, right?
Yeah, they're not the client for us, right?
Exactly.
I do want to address if they don't have cameras on. I still think it's really important for you to leave your camera on, and this is why you tend to like other humans that you could see, especially if you could see their enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is really important in this process. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. But if they can see you and see your enthusiasm, they're more likely to start to warm up and start to like you, even if you can't see them back. So I would challenge you to leave the camera on simply so they get to know Haley. And maybe you don't really get to make the connection with them as much as you would if you could see them. But you're right. They're way more likely to leave it on once they kind of understand what the process is when they come back for the proposal call. So I will not harp anymore. You guys can tell I'm clearly passionate about making that connection initially. And I think a massive part of the connection is the nonverbal communication part. So, Haley, when we dive into the consultation, there's a few check boxes we always do in the very, very beginning. The first is absolutely create the connection. I think one more thing that I want to talk about is like prepping before the consultation.
Yes.
So the first step is sending them the invite so they get the link, so it's a video call, but there's some prep that needs to happen before you even get on the call. What does that look like for you?
I think obviously understanding the destination they're looking to go to is super important. Make sure you know where they want to go. So if you haven't booked it before, you prep yourself with enough time to sound like that professional when you get on the call. And yeah, so that's, I would say, very important. Take 15 minutes. You really don't need to put a lot of time into it. And,
There we go.
have your second screen up, do some Google research or AI, pull in, the big key points. And that's pretty much it. That's all you really need in a consultation to kind of get going on a destination you haven't planned before.
Yeah, don't spend hours and hours doing like the destination certification and knowing everything there is to know. Like, just have the basics. When's the best time of year to go there? What does a price point really look like? Give me some of the major activities in the major cities. How do I pronounce certain things? My God, if I hear one more person try to sell France without really even Googling how to pronounce some of the major things, like just a couple of small things. This is literally less than 15 minutes. I think you need to take. I would actually say 10 minutes on researching the destination if you don't know it at all, and about 5 minutes on researching the person. If it's a referral, go to your friend who referred them, go to their Facebook page and find your mutual connections, find this person, go find them on social media and just kind of see what they're into. Do they have kids? Maybe their kids are the same age as your kids. Do they play sports? Are they into certain movies you're into? Whatever it is, try to find that connection because what's going to happen is when they get on a call, you're going to have the opportunity to steer the conversation. And you can steer it in a direction where you know the connection can be quickly made. We don't have a lot of time here. These consultations should be about 20, 30 minutes tops. So the reality is you want to make the connection really, really quick. So if you see on their social media, they're huge Saints fans, when they get on, you could say like, "Oh yeah, I can't believe football season's right around the corner. Who's your team, by the way?" And they start talking about it, and it's a whole different, you make the connection. And the idea is you can't just feel around because you don't have time to do that. You want to be able to make a quick connection. So if I were you, I would encourage you just doing a simple social media search for whoever it is you're going to meet with if you don't already know them. If you do already know the person, it's a friend or family member, think about the last time you saw them. And is there something you can bring up to reconnect that moment of when you saw them? Because I think it's important just to say, I remember you, and let them feel seen and heard and that sort of thing. All right, Haley. So we're on the call, we're on a video call, we're making this awesome connection. We're super excited. What are the other check boxes before we really dive into where do you want to go?
Yeah, I think it's important to, number one, make sure you want to work with the client, right? And make sure that connection's there, but not only the connection, I mean, you could meet the best person in the world, but if they want to go to Italy with a $5,000 budget, including flights, that's a different conversation, right? So I think diving into the amount of money they want to invest or some bottom line so you get a good indication of what the trip is going to be like and how you can service it is really important. I highly suggest getting off that call with some type of number in mind.
Well,
So
do you
that's
you don't do that right in the do you do that right in the beginning?
no, 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 no. In the
Okay.
beginning, I dive into what the trip looks like and what they want. Who are you traveling with? Where are we going? How long are we going for? Have we narrowed down dates? And those type of things. What type of travelers are you? What is the first thing you want to do when you get to your destination? Are you excited about the food, the history? Do you like cooking classes? All the things that, I dive into to understand the type of trip that they're looking for. Budget definitely comes after that, right?
Absolutely. Okay. So let me take a step back because before we even get to like the meat of the trip, I always do the have you ever worked with a travel agent before? And I think that's such an important question to kind of frame the conversation because most of the time they haven't. And that's the best case scenario because it gives you this opportunity to say, well, here's my process. Is this what you're looking for? Right. But if they have worked with another travel agent, it opens up the beautiful question of, well, why aren't you working with them on this trip? And I have heard some of the most interesting answers. I had a lady one time that's like, "Well, they put my granddaughter's name's Charlie and they put her as a boy instead of a girl and that upset me." This woman has spent roughly 75 grand with me every single year since then. That travel agent lost it over the silliest thing. Guess what, the one thing I didn't mess up. But had she not said it out loud, maybe I would have, right? So I think just asking why you're not working with that travel agent again is hugely, hugely helpful. And then I will add to that the how did you hear about us conversation. If you don't already know, like, don't forget to ask that. It's so important in your job, understanding how people are coming to you and understanding what's important to them. Did they find you on Google because of your reviews? You should lean into those. Did they find you on social media because a friend tagged you? You should lean into that. It's going to give you the direction as a travel agent to really put forth your effort in the future. So I think those are two big questions that I always go over. And then, Haley, do you explain the proven sales process? Do you explain it then or do you wait till the end of the
I
call? How
I
do you
think
typically
we
do it?
I think we do the call reverse burn. And I
Yeah.
think this is only because I think as 20 years of bartender, I really take time to get to know the person first. Then I dive into like the details after. So yeah, I definitely go over all those questions, but I wait to hear about the trip first because I want to know in my head how much time am I going to put into this and does this trip really align with my business and what I'm looking for? Because if at that point I get to it where I'm like, "Hey, I this is not the trip for me to work for you and I can pass you off to somebody else," then I try to get there sooner than towards the end, if that makes sense.
That's absolutely fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think so. Basically, if you get through it and you're like, I'm not working with this person, why bother telling them about the sales process or how you get paid or have you used a
Yeah.
TA before? You kind of save that for the end.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. So I love all that.
Yeah.
All right. The main part of the trip, we're not going to spend any time on. We can have another episode where we dive really deep into the consultation, but it's the basics, right? It's tell me about where you want to go. Why do you want to go there? Tell me about the activities. You guys have that. So I'm not as worried. But there are some steps at the end that we always really, really think make all of the difference in the world when it comes to wrapping up the consultation, but also when it comes to getting the client aligned with the success that you want out of it. So, the one big question that I would say never, ever, ever skip is understanding the timing of the deposit. So, the way that I ask it is I say, hey, look, a deposit is typically about 25% of the cost of the tour. That can absolutely change. But with that, I'm going to come back in a couple of days and give you all of the best options that I can find within your budget. If I come back and I find the perfect option for you, are you ready to put down a deposit on Friday at 12:30? Like I'm very pointed with it. Are you that aggressive
You
about when am
you
I locking it
have to
in?
be. Absolutely. I had a client, I actually just booked a trip for to Iceland. Our initial consultation was last August. And in the consultation, I said, okay, so are we ready to get the ball rolling? Exactly like you said, Bird, deposit will be due. And I explained to them if I try to pitch you something now, but you can't pay for it 6 months later, it's going to be a completely different trip cost wise. So it's just not worth it. And they came back and told me, No, thank you so much for asking. I actually get a bonus in January. So by February, we'll have the funds ready to go ahead and get the deposit. I said, okay, thank you so much for letting me know. It changed everything. I'm not going to go and waste my time. I'm not going to charge my fee yet. I'm going to make sure that they have their money to actually do this trip first.
Yeah.
And I put them in my CRM, follow up in 6 months. On the 1st of February, I sent them over the email. They're like, thank you so much, Haley. Bonus is coming next week. Let's reconnect.
You're like,
So yeah, exactly. So I think it's the most important question of the entire consultation for me.
well, and here's what else it does. It places the reality in their mind that at Friday at 11:30 p.m. or whatever the time is, that they're going to be placing a deposit. So this is step one to not getting your clients to drag their feet. Those objections happen all the time where advisors are like, well, I can't get them to close, or it's been 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks. If your sales cycle is 6, 7+ weeks long, like this is a really, really good step to start to shorten that. It's just explaining the reality to the client. When I do a proposal, we will be locking something in that day as long as I have proposed exactly what you want, right? Like, obviously, if I come back and this isn't the trip you were hoping for, that's a different story. Okay, so timing of the deposit. The other thing that I make sure I get is I make sure I get all of the contact information for all of the parties. So I word it this way. Typically, you have like the wife's phone number because we know the wife does all the work, let's be honest. So typically, we have the wife's phone number, and the wife and the husband or whoever will be on the call. And I will typically do something like this. Hey, I love to start a text chain after this. So if between now and the presentation you guys think of something you want me to keep in mind, you just text me and then I'll have it all ready for when we do the proposal. Sarah, it looks like I've got your number, but Jim, I don't have yours. So Jim, what's your number? He gives it to me every time. Like I've never once had someone be like, no. And I don't really give a shit about Jim's number. That's not what I'm here for. What I'm here for is I would like multiple people to annoy so no one ghosts me. I want you to tell me I'm not going on this trip if you're not going on the trip. I hate getting ghosted. And I think when you have multiple points of contact, you're way less likely to get ghosted. Someone in the party is going to tell you what the problem is and why they're not traveling. So, multiple
Agreed.
points of contact. The third step to wrapping up the consultation is setting the presentation date. All right, let's go ahead and just get it on the calendar right now, guys. I've got a Thursday at 3 or I've got a Friday at 11 a.m. What works best for you? Get it on the calendar right there, set it out so they understand their next step. And then setting the expectations for the proposal. So again, just reminding them, this will also be on Zoom. Please come in front of a big computer screen, not your phone, because I want to be able to show you like what the rooms look like so you can really make some educated decisions, because we're going to lock everything in right after that. And again, I'm just again reminding them like I'm taking payment that day, period.
Yeah.
Again, 100% of the time it does not work, but it does work, I would say 80+% of the time. Haley, is there anything else you do different when it comes to kind of wrapping that up?
No, I think it's just really setting expectations and clear steps for what's next. So I also do something maybe a little different. After in the proposal, I always send over my form or terms and conditions. So if you are pitching a fee, you need to make sure you're pitching the fee at the correct time in the consultation. And you need to explain to them that this fee is collected prior to me getting to work, and this is why. And, you very rarely have somebody come back and say, oh, okay, well, that doesn't work for me. I ask them if they have any questions about it so I can answer them right then and there. But then I'm setting that clear step of what we need to do. So from here, I'm going to send over my tasks or my form for you to fill out all the travelers' names, dates of birth, everything correct. You're going to go ahead and give me your credit card information so I can process that payment. Then we're going to move into the proposal, right? So yes, try to get the proposal set up. I try to even send those tasks while I'm on the call with them. Say, can you check your email right now? Just let me know if you got them. Any questions, let me know. I'm here. And then I try to tell them, get that done now so we can, move forward to the proposal in the next couple of days.
Perfect. I love that. And you guys, just so you know, we do have a Facebook group called The Travel Agent Guide that you can find. We have a PDF of basically a checklist with all the questions that you can use for your consultations. I'm going to drop that in the Facebook group for you guys to use as whenever this airs. And I'm going to make sure you'll be able to have it basically as a PDF so you can print it. Our advisors, we have it in this thick notepad and I send it out to everybody so they can kind of rip them off as they go. If you do like to write, this is really handy. And especially if you're brand new at this or just trying this new sales process, this is a really good way to just remember everything because there's a lot to remember in this. Okay, so we've spent 20 minutes talking about the consultation because there are a lot of like setup and close it out. I think the consultation is the most pivotal part because really what you're doing is you're building trust. And if you don't have the trust, the presentation, it doesn't matter how good it is, it's not going to go over well. So anything else we haven't thought about with the consultation before we move on to step two in our proven sales process?
No, I think just the repeatable process. It's important to present yourself as a professional. You know what you're doing. So make sure you set clear expectations right from the beginning.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so step two is just the research and design phase. That's completely up to you. How you do that, we will do several episodes of the future about the best ways, best partners, those sort of things. But I want to skip ahead to step three, which is the proposal call itself. So again, I think it has to be on video. But I think the biggest thing that needs to happen is telling a story. I have a lot of advisors I'm seeing out there that are using a program called Loom. Basically, you pre-record the video and you send it over to the clients, and then they tell you what they think. I think this is the biggest mistake you can make. This is not the biggest mistake. There's lots of mistakes you can make, but I think this is a giant mistake. And I think it's a giant mistake because you're missing the whole point of the video. The whole point of doing a video with somebody is to see their reaction. And if I can't see when I put this resort up on screen and your wife gets this big giant smile on her face, and the very next resort I put up, all of a sudden it's kind of like a ho hum kind of reaction to her facial expression, then I'm missing out, right? If I'm watching her as I'm giving that proposal, I'm immediately pivoting how I'm pitching this and what I'm leaning into. I'm immediately building up that first one because she thought it was so great, and I'm justifying the fact that I put the second one on there, but I'm like, this probably isn't the one, right, guys? Nope. All right, let's move on, right? Like I'm watching her while I pitch. So if you're doing this as a pre-recorded video, I think in your head, a lot of people are like, well, I'm doing the video. You're missing the point of the video if you're not watching their reaction. Is that fair, Haley? Is that too aggressive?
It is. And I think some advisors, again, this comes back to like the imposter syndrome, feeling nervous or anxious about messing up. Who cares? I get on Zoom calls with clients and I just make a joke with them like, hey guys, I'm sorry. I've been in meetings all day. My head's a little mushy. If I mess up, ha ha ha. Like I just try to be real about it instead of it has to be so perfect and professional. I feel like if I recorded a Loom, I would literally do it 100 times and drive myself crazy rewatching it until I sent it. And I don't want anything I'm doing being recorded because now they have I don't know, that's just me. So I definitely prefer getting on the live call. I also call my proposals a workshop, Bird. So when I present this to a client, I tell them we're doing a workshop, right? We're hopping on a call. I'm going to be doing screen sharing. We're going to go over logistics. I'm going to show you the map of where you're staying so you can understand each location. I'm going to present to you two properties or whatever that looks like per, city that you're in. And we're going to do a process of elimination. You're going to tell me right then and there which hotel you prefer, and I'm going to take it out and we're going to go from there. So if there's a tour you don't like, I'm immediately deleting it from what we have and I'm coming up with the alternative for you. I can't do this on a Loom recording. I just can't do it. And now how much time is it going to go by that your sales cycle's going to probably increase and the time from you closing the sale is going to take a lot longer. For me, I did try it. I'm not going to lie. I tried Loom about 2.5 years ago. I got so busy. I'm like, this is worth it. And it was just not it for me at
So
all.
I will also say, Haley, the other thing that you're preventing with the way that you're pitching it is this is a workshop. We're going to make
Yeah.
decisions. Is you're also pitching all decision makers need to be there.
Yeah.
And here's what this prevents. This prevents all your time and effort. You do this beautiful proposal call. And then at the end, she goes, okay, I'll talk to my husband about it tonight and get back to you. And then they don't get back to you for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It stops that in its tracks.
Yep.
Like it's not an option if we're making decisions together on the call. Well, then the husband knows he needs to find a time that also works for him. I'm giving husbands a lot of shit on this episode. Husbands, you're great, I promise.
Well, I just had a client reach out to me yesterday. It was a referral from a client and It's her and her sister. They want to go to Italy for 2 weeks in November. And I'm like, oh, perfect. Yeah, I'm excited. And she told me, she's like, yeah, I'm going to be the point of contact until we kind of have a plan. Then I'll loop in my sister. And I'm like, no,
Nope.
no, you're not. And I sent her back an email. I said, listen, if your sister's paying her own way and decision making, I need to have her on the consultation, or it's just going to waste a lot of time. But I obviously said that a little more professional, and I'm
Well,
still
because
waiting
the
for a reply.
sister's gonna
Yeah.
come in and change
Yep.
everything, right?
Everything.
Like
Yeah.
you and I
Been
both
there, done
know.
that. Been there, done it. I won't do it anymore. Right.
Every time, every
Yeah.
time. So I love that presentation workshop, and we are
Yeah.
workshopping this together. We're going to make decisions together, prepare to be engaged. Do not be driving down the highway in your car and pull me up on your phone and think that this is going to work. No, you need to be like ready to work with me. I love that. Anything else you do to kind of prep for the meeting as you're going into it?
No, like you said, I try to get husband and wife group texts or whoever's traveling just to say if I'm researching a trip and I have questions, I try to narrow it down before we get onto the proposal, right? So I try to get a clear understanding like, hey, are you guys afraid of heights? Like, would you want to do zip lining? Or, we try to do it in the consultation, but the reality is I don't feel like you can always capture everything in the consultation.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
I definitely get them on a call just to know that they have access to me while we're planning and keep them in line of what the next step is, right? And this is what we're doing.
I love it. Okay, so here's how the proposal workshop goes. Before you log in, I do it this way. There's lots of ways to do it, but I think this is the best way to do it is I have the full itinerary. We use Access Travel app as our itinerary builder. Turn has a great one. Travefy has a beautiful one. There's lots of options out there, but whatever you've built the itinerary out, build it out into the in and have it up. Have it ready to kind of present and show the client. Then what I do is I have a different tab for every piece of the story I want to tell. So let's say that we're doing a, 2 week trip across Italy and we're going to do Rome, Florence, Venice. Beautiful. I'm going to have a map up of Rome and I'm going to have the hotel on the map and I'm going to have it starred on the map. So I could show them, hey, this is the location of your hotel. It's smack dab in the middle of the tourist center. You're going to be able to walk to the Colosseum and walk to the Vatican. Well, you probably can't walk to the Vatican, but you go walk to the things. And I'm going to show them all of that, right? And then the next tab will be, and here's the hotel itself. Let me go through the gallery, and I'm already have the gallery pulled up. Here's the beautiful rooftop patio, and here's the swimming pool they have, yada, yada. And then the next one's going to be the actual room itself. Here's the room. It's a beautiful king bed. Here's the little balcony. Great. Here's option number two. This hotel is going to be around. I usually try to do them where they're like the exact same price. I think it's important to give options to clients because here's the thing, they want to feel in control, but they don't want to be in control. They don't want to have to make all the decisions, but they do want to make some decisions. If you just give them a proposal and it's just one of everything and you're like, what do you think? They're going to be left a little bit like they didn't quite feel like they got there. I have found that if you can allow them to make decisions, just a handful throughout the proposal call, that they're way more likely to say, yep, that's it. That's what I want. Let's do this. So I try to give them the easiest decision is hotels. I try to find hotels that are in the same ballpark and say option one, option two, which one of those do you feel like really fit your vibe a lot more? Let them say, cool, we'll take the other one out. And then you continue on. For the activities, I still have a tab pulled up. So I may Google Coliseum and then I'm going to open a tab with a picture of the Coliseum and nothing else. And I'm going to explain, okay, now this morning you're going to take a private tour of the Coliseum. It's going to be just your family. You're going to get to see the underground, whatever. Da, 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 da. You get the point. And the idea is you're kind of telling a story, and I tell it through the tabs of my computer. So I will typically have anywhere from 10 to 15 tabs open as I'm going through that story with them. And I'm just clicking one by one through the process, right? As I get through the story. And as much as you can create it, make it into a story, please do so. So, for instance, okay, on Wednesday morning, you guys are going to wake up, be picked up by a private transfer, and we're going to go out into the vineyards. We're finally going to get to see Tuscany, and it's going to be fantastic because you're going to have all these different wine tastings. Do you guys like red wine? Right? Like, kind of try to make it into a story, make it romantic as much as you can. Help them get excited. And if you can, repeat their why over and over. So if they told you in the consultation their why was, I really just need some time to reconnect with my husband. The kids have been really overwhelming. We're so excited for this trip of just the two of us. every piece of your story needs to repeat that why. And this is going to be a great time for you guys to really reconnect and just get to be with each other, you know? Like that piece has to be in every single part of your story. Haley, what's your sped on that? Do you do anything differently?
No, it's exactly right. I tell the story and I'm tying into exactly what they're looking for. If it's their anniversary, we're staying at this villa because the spa is unbelievable. And you're just making it personalized because the reality is if you don't and you're just sending over this quote to Italy for 20 grand, the client's going to sit there and be like, okay, so I need to look up this hotel. I need to look up this. And they're going to spend so much time on it where if you just took 45 minutes on this in-depth call and did it with them, they're going to get off that call feeling like they don't have to do anything more, right? They're educated now on where their money's going, what the experience is going to look like. You've showed them the hotel websites and the properties. Why are they going to have to go do it on themselves now? Yeah. So, no, you nailed it. That's
That's
exactly
a
how I do it.
That's a really great point as you're taking that work off of them. And there's one really big piece that I missed. When you start this proposal, you want to reiterate what it is that they asked for. So just a quick headline of, all right, we're trying to go to Italy. We're spending 2 full weeks. We really want to have some adventure, but the main focus is just reconnecting with each other. And we want to see the sights, but again, always bringing it back to that reconnection piece. So I'm excited to show you what I found. I have been doing a ton of research. You've got to have those words in there.
Yeah.
And here's why. They want to know that someone else is working really, really hard on them. So right now, I can tell you that I could do an Italy proposal right now with zero research, and it's going to take me zero time, and I could easily pitch a $20,000 trip to Italy. No problem, right? I've got that story down pat at this point. So is it authentic to say I've done a ton of research? No, but in the past I have. So it is authentic in that sense. But you want them to hear that you worked really hard putting this together. I think that part of the human mentality, part of the way our brain works is I reached out to a professional because I believe a professional knows everything.
Mhm.
So I need to know that that professional put a lot of time and effort into my special trip and it's just for me. That's what they want to hear. So let them hear it because that's going to frame the rest of your conversation and let them be really excited. Your enthusiasm will absolutely rub off on them. But if you get on the call and you're just like, okay, so I've got the proposal for our trip to Italy, and this is the hotel in Rome, and it's got a king bed like you asked for, and then we're going to take the train. It's a bullet train to Florida, right? Like that's so different of an experience. So you have to be enthusiastic and you want to actually say the words that you worked really hard and did a ton of research so they understand what they're about to see is really special.
Agreed. I think that enthusiasm definitely goes back to the consultation as well, right? Just remind the clients how excited you are to get to work on this. You love planning Italy. You can't wait. And they're going to get excited, right? So you keep showing that enthusiasm. They're going to get excited. They're finally going to lock it in. You're going to get the sale and off they go.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So wrapping up their proposal is the piece that I think most travel agents struggle with heavily. Tell me how you wrap it up before I dive into don't forget all these other things. How do
Of
you kind
course.
of make sure, other than, hey, Visa or MasterCard, that's probably not the right way.
Yeah. No, so towards the end is when I go through, what's included with everything that I've just presented to them, right? So from start to finish, the transfers, the trains, the hotels, the tours, all of this is included. And this is how much your trip is going to be. That's what I present the price. At this point, I know the price aligns with what they want to spend because we've already had a discussion about it. And yeah, from there, I either do give them, I try to give some upsell opportunities, right? I don't think it's necessarily in changing a hotel unless they have like high expectations of some crazy 5-star property. But I think upgrading the room is a great potential to upgrade. So I always ask them, do you want me to look at a suite or something a little, above your standard or deluxe, whatever I pitch to you? And then I go back from there of how much do we need to change and what does that look like? Or are you ready to get this locked in right away? I'm going to be honest, probably 8 out of 10 times, it's exactly the way they want it and they're ready to pay for it. And I go over a deposit amount, exactly what this is going to look like. And that's it. I go over costs and
So
$2,000 and here we are, right?
The only tweak I make is I usually don't have an exact price for the proposal. I don't take the time to price out transfers or train tickets before a FIT proposal ever. What I do is I simply ballpark they're going to be 150 for
Round up
transfers,
at
150
300.
per person for train. And so I've got it in there, and then I always have some like cushion. So I will typically pitch it as it's going to be right around 25,000. As soon as you tell me this is exactly what you're looking for, I'm going to price out every single thing perfectly for you, and we're going to lock this in today. I'll be texting you the exact deposit amount within the hour. Are we good? Right? Does anything need to be changed? I also like to ask the simple question of like, so what are you most excited about? And they'll say like, oh my God, I can't wait to do that private dinner in a vineyard. That's incredible. I can't believe you thought of that very standard thing. And they're going to be all excited, which means that they're more likely to say yes. You got them to say yes to a piece of it. So if they say yes to a piece, they're more likely to say yes to the trip as a whole. And then ask, do you have any questions? No, no questions, no changes. Amazing. Let's go ahead and lock that in. Now, Haley always pitches the fee on the consultation. So she's already got the credit card information, she's got the traveler's details and all of that.
Mhm.
If you didn't pitch a fee, you should. But if you didn't pitch a fee, this is your time to make sure to say, I'm sending over all the paperwork. I need you to fill this out right now. And if you even slightly think that they may be hesitating on locking it in today, that's where you need to set urgency. Haley, how do you best go about setting urgency with these clients?
I just, so one of my favorite things to say is my supplier has this on hold until end of day, right?
Yeah,
So we're confirmed pricing. We have everything good to go. If we wait a few more days, then pricing may fluctuate. And that's kind of what I go off of. And I basically say I've done a lot of work and put this on hold. So damn it, pay your deposit. So that's kind of how I do that.
I hope you don't say, damn it, pay your deposit.
No, of course not, right? But I think I've already set the expectations. We've told them that a deposit's coming. They know what to expect. Unless there's like, here's the other thing. If you're working with the DMC, you're working with a tour operator like Europe Express, sometimes the back and forth, like if you have to go in and change something, the reality is that could take a day or two. So depending on how you're actually putting together your trip and researching it and selling it, I think that's important to consider as well, right? Sometimes just changing out a tour could take 24 hours with Europe Express. So, depending on the supplier, right? If I know I'm booking a Europe Express package, then I'll tell them if it's a 3 o'clock, proposal, I'll tell them by end of day tomorrow, we'll be good to go with all the updates that will be made for you. And I'll touch base and send over authorization then. So, I think it really truly depends on the type of trip that you're booking too.
I love it. Yeah, as long as you help them understand this process is happening now, not in 3 weeks from now, that's the main part of it. Will you have people drag their feet? Absolutely. And I don't want to set the expectation that if you do this exactly as I say, you're never going to have any problems again. That's unrealistic. However, I will be honest that 8 out of 10 is very accurate for me as well. About 8 out of 10 pay for it that day, lock it in that day. And I also use the line like my supplier has this on hold till midnight. Please let me know. I like that you say end of day because midnight probably that's why I get the 10 p.m. text, isn't it? Even though it's not completely accurate, we all know we could put rooms on hold with beds online or rate hawk for the entire until final payment, right? But I think helping the client understand that when the process happens faster, it's so much easier on you. So the reality is, if they drag their feet, it makes your life more difficult. So why not put that sense of urgency to them? I used to always set urgency around flights, and I would say, flight prices fluctuate, but here's what I found is flight prices also go down, and people know that. And so then you've got the people that are like trying to time the market perfectly, and I don't have time to deal with that. I want to get your flight booked and get it out of the way as quickly as possible. So I am hoping that basically relying on that this is on hold kind of comment that they understand we've got to move quickly. And again, you can't set that expectation for the first time at the end of the proposal. You've got to set it a week in advance when you're on the consultation. Or I typically recommend that research and design period to be roughly 2 to 3 days. I find when it's a full week, it basically shows that you don't have a lot of urgency around the trip. So why should they have urgency to lock it in? 2 to 3 days feels really good because you clearly took a lot of time and effort into the trip, even though it better not have taken you 3 days to build out. You put some time and effort in the trip, right? Whereas if you say like, oh, we could do a proposal call tomorrow, it's going to feel like there really wasn't enough effort put into it. So I typically tell people set your proposal call about 3 days out. That's where I see clients feel like they're getting the most value and be ready to lock things in pretty quickly. If you're using a DMC, that can be a problem. You've got to find the right DMC partners that will get you a proposal back within 24 hours. And if that's not the DMC you're reaching out to, find a different one. They should be able to do that. A DMC works with typically one, maybe a couple of countries. They should have that unlocked, right? If I'm only working with Italy, I can pump out some Italy proposals pretty quickly. Any last minute suggestions there? Anything you think we forgot, Haley?
No, I think, now that we talk about the 2 out of 10 that aren't ready to kind of lock it in and how you deal with that, I think going back to the overall process and, you creating your process that works for you and you stick with it every single time, it's just going to make everything clear for the client. Clients are going to say to you like, "Hey, can we just lock in the hotels and not do the tours right now?" That's one of my favorite questions. And I say to them, no, because what's going to happen is, a month, 2 months later, they're going to be wanting to do the tours. They're just dismantling your package and everything that you work towards. Like, you need to know what you want to work and what you don't. And that I don't recommend. Not like this didn't recently happen or something. But then you're going to have clients too who they're good to go when they tell you they have a deposit and they're doing a 2 week trip to Asia. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, are you, no, but we're going to take some time and just go over it and dive in a little more in depth. And then you ask the questions like, what more do you need to be educated on so I can help you? And then a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, you text them. And, I think having a process for what happens when they don't actually close it on the call with you is important as well. How many times are you going to follow up? How long are you going to let it linger? When do you talk about, okay, they're risking prices going up tremendously because they're just waiting? Are they really doing this trip? I think and again, that's more conversations we can have in other episodes, but
I love it. Has
yeah.
anybody quoted somebody at the beginning of March and then actually booked it at the end of March? Tell me those prices didn't change on you. So honestly, using fear tactics like that are a realistic advantage. And yeah, I think we should do a much deeper dive into basically overcoming objections and what that looks like. Because it is really important to ask the question of why. Why do they need more time? What piece of the proposal are you still questioning or unsure about? Maybe I could give you some more direction there, right? I think that's really important. All right, I love this. I would like to just make sure that you don't forget this step of there is a next step. So, however, if you're not working with an assistant, again, you should be. It's one of my favorite things that we offer at Sava Travel. We charge nothing for it up front. You pay for it as a percentage of your commission once the trip is traveled. But basically, an assistant should be the next step. So after we lock this in, I'm going to introduce you to my guest experience manager. They're going to answer your questions. They're going to put the icing on the cake with any dinner reservations or spa appointments, but just letting you know you're not going to hear from us until about 60 days prior to the trip. That's when we'll start reaching out again and making sure that everything is aligned just perfectly. And then don't forget, we're also going to do a welcome home call right before you travel. Sorry, a pre-departure call right before you travel to make sure that you feel really good about what you're about to experience and you don't have any last minute questions. So making sure they understand that you're not going to take their 10 grand and run. It's essentially what we want to do here. What is the next step after I book it in? You always, with each step of the process, make sure you just reiterate the next step so they know what's happening.
Love it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We will be talking to y'all again next week. Don't forget, we drop a new episode every single Wednesday, and we can't wait to see you then.
Bye.